I bought FIFA like 6 weeks to get here. Out here. What? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I said you gotta get ready.
What's up, everybody?
Taylor can't be.
Oh, I didn't beat that.
We're 1-1. We still haven't had a grudge match.
Was that? Do you remember that?
And for those of you already here, who do you think's better at FIFA? Kent or I?
What?
It's not even a question. I mean, look at me. I'm a dad. I got dad strength even in video games.
That's straight to video games.
Absolutely not. The moment Paisley was born, I got 35% stronger. That's the way it works.
Did you get a dad bod immediately?
No, I'm working out running, so I got hot dad bod.
Oh my god.
Just kidding. The Natalie and Paige were talking about the other day. She said, guys don't objectify women. They objectify other guys. They're always like, oh, look how buff that dude is.
Yeah.
Oh, look how hot he feels.
Oh, you mean like when all my small group was like, oh my gosh, Ben, your brother is so much hotter than you.
You talking about Aaron?
Yeah. Oh wait, that was Chance saying that too. That wasn't weird at all.
Okay, question for all of you guys joining. Who is the hottest man in 11-12? Hottest student.
That's a weird question to ask.
Guy student. Also, can we give it up for the fact that Ben's hair still on point, even though it's a quarantine? Have you been doing your hair every day?
Heck yeah.
Even if you don't go anywhere for your kids?
No, I walk downstairs and I go in my office and I get ready for work.
Nice. You still got like a full work schedule or what?
I have to sell stuff, so I work every hour of every day that I can. If they're buying, I'm selling. Yeah.
That's the motto of a true drug dealer. So.
Yeah. So, you know.
Hopefully it's legal. Hey, so as you guys are joining in today, we are going to be talking about family. We know that people are hopping on, but something that's important, I think, is one, we've got two people that are pretty different in terms of where they're at in life. Like Kent just graduated, was actually a student in Ben's life group last year, now leads a life group with Ben. And something that I really appreciate about Kent is I just think that he's a really good brother. I've seen that in a lot of ways. And just like he takes care of his sisters really well. I've also seen him be very respectful to his parents. And even seeing him and his dad like goof around sometimes is also cool to see that relationship between him. And Ben is someone who comes from a big family. What do you have, like 35 brothers and sisters? Or how many is it actually?
12.
12, including you? Wow. Yeah, so like one is Ben Mormon. Are you guys Mormon? Okay, you're Christian. Got it.
But literally everybody asks that question. Are you Mormon? Are you Catholic? Twins? What's wrong with you?
Do people ask your parents if they know what birth control is?
Yeah.
Like they make these things now that. Also, after watching Heather give birth, honestly, bless your poor mom. The fact that she did that 12 times, she's a saint among women. But yeah, Ben has 4 of his own kids, and if you're like, hey, there's a Sherlock at North Coast, I guarantee you they're in some way, shape, or form related to Ben because there's 12 of them, and I'm pretty sure they all go to North Coast. They all live in town, or does someone move?
I have 2 that just moved out of state last year.
Got it. Okay. Up until then, they were all in this area. Yeah. So, because of that, we wanted to talk a little bit about family, and especially, like, I think I've got it the easiest right now. Here's what I mean: is my quarantine literally exists of talking to Heather and keeping an infant alive. Which, like, keeping them alive isn't as difficult as it sounds. You know, you just got to make sure that you change their diaper, they sleep, and you feed them. And then, but Ben, you know, he's got to like actually put up with kids, adult kids, and like the point where kids can like annoy you too, you know. So he's got that, and then Kent also has to learn to live with his siblings and parents. And so I know that a lot of you are in that same boat where you're like, maybe you've got a good home life or a bad home life, but you're just kind of frustrated with your situation, or you with your family. Maybe you're not as easy to be patient with them, so you start finding a short temper. So we kind of want to talk about, while we're still in quarantine, how can we maximize our family dynamic? How can we love people the best? I got a couple of questions. And this week, not only did I get the live up and running correctly, but thank you, congrats to me. But I also pre-sent them the questions so that they would have time to think about it, because maybe they aren't under pressure, and I want them to give the best version of themselves. So
now we have no excuse for not.
Yeah. If your answers are bad, I'm just going to tell you you're stupid.
Put all the pressure back on.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, first question is, Ben, which kid do you like most right now?
Oh, 100%. There's no answer for that.
Yeah, but like you have one. You just can't say it, but you have one.
It's every day. It's different.
Okay, even quarantine?
Okay.
There's not one that's like,
Okay.
kind of like, you're like, in quarantine, this kid has been my favorite.
So here's the dynamic. I have an 18-year-old daughter,
Right.
a 16-year-old son, a 14-year-old daughter, and an 11-year-old daughter. So there's 3 out of 4 of them that have hormonal issues. So
Talking about your son? The main of the 3?
No.
I'm well aware what you're saying. I get it. So you like one day you're like, okay, so I can go to prep. Oh, if you guys don't know, Ben's daughter Faith is engaged to Will Clark, who used to be in the ministry. Ben, how do you feel about that?
it's awesome. That part's interesting because she works a ton, he works a ton, and so this whole thing is like I haven't seen him. He actually came yesterday or whatever, or came by our house and like go drop off stuff. But they're quarantining, so I don't know how you do the engagement process when quarantining, but I don't envy it at this point in time. But I think they're just trying to keep busy with work.
Another question for you, Ben. Have you been working out with Aaron at all recently? You know, trying to
Get swole. Aaron's out tanning. He's probably doing pull-ups right now.
shout out to Jackson Sherlock, his parents, Aaron and Becky. Kent, which sister do you like most right now?
Oh,
You have a favorite one in quarantine?
It changes every day.
right?
It's the one you see the most that day,
Yeah.
or maybe the one you see the least.
No one's, I don't know. I don't see Elisa that often. She's always out working and stuff. So Lauren's the one I always see. So
Ken, I also heard that you just committed a crime. You destroyed a beautiful piece of art. You cut your hair. So,
well, actually, Lauren did it for me, but yeah, I know. It'll come back. It'll come back.
But before you cut your hair, how did you get your hair so beautiful? What did you do? Did you use Tresemme, or the people need to know? You know.
Actually, the trick is not washing your hair every day with shampoo and conditioner. Not the trick. Yes, it is, because if you do that every day, one, it's unhealthy, and that's been proven. And two, it sounds nasty, but the grease helps like shape your hair.
So you're saying don't shower?
No.
So Mikey's hair is really.
That's why Mikey's hair is so
His hair's
long
amazing.
and shiny, because Mikey doesn't shower. Shout out to Mikey for not showering. Also, speaking of Mikey, he said, "What happened to Will? Why isn't he in the ministry anymore?" Mikey, that's for you to discover on your own. We believe in you and your detective work. So, and then, okay, first real question for you then is, what do your kids do right now that makes you feel the most valued? Like as a father, I think, and I'm excited for this one day where kids can kind of reciprocate love. But you're at this cool age where it's not even just like a 5-year-old will do cute stuff for their parents, and you're like, oh, that's awesome. Like they have nice sentiment. But I mean, you actually have like an adult daughter who can is listening to 11-12 sermons, can go home and show you acts of love. And same with a lot of your kids, like one's in 9-10 and a couple kids younger. So what do they do to make you feel valued at home?
So for me, my love language is one of them is quality time. And so for me, spending time and
Give me a second. I'm gonna go turn down the music because it's pretty loud. All I can hear was the bass. So
pause.
you can answer actually while I'm turning down the music.
Anyway, it's quality time, and so the last couple of weeks, my youngest and I go to like the farmers market every Saturday morning and hang out together that way. And the same thing with the other ones, just spending time. So when they come up and like we'll actively say, hey, let's do this, or even just let's go jump in the car and go somewhere, and they're like, yeah, cool, let's go. I think that to me is awesome. It's just a chance for us to hang out. Having, as weird as it is for me, having 12 kids in my family, 4 kids is now considered a lot of kids. So I don't know how my parents figured out how to spend any time with us. So trying to be consistent.
So you're saying when they just hop on in regular life with you, like you're like, hey, I'm going to the store and they want to come with you, you just feel really valued by the fact that they want to spend time with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I noticed a huge shift in my relationship with my mom because my mom would, she would buy the groceries and all that stuff. And if, I would be lazy on my homework anyways, or probably usually actually have my homework done because I generally didn't get that much. But I went to classical, so they don't really they don't believe in that stuff. It's more just like whatever you feel. But I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I would ask my mom, like, hey, can I go to the store with you? And she was like, I remember the first time she's like, yeah, of course. Like, she was so glad that I went with her. But I started doing that as a regular practice. And at first I did it because in junior high they were like, hey, you should start like loving your parents and spending time with them. But I noticed this weird thing. The more I started spending time with my mom because I believed it was the right thing to do, the more I actually enjoyed spending time with my mom because I knew who she was, I cared about her, and I liked her more. So yeah, both from the parent standpoint of like what Ben's saying, who he has a daughter older than all of y'all. And so, sorry, I'm not from the South, but I said y'all, so forgive me. But yeah, so he feels loved just when she's willing to spend time with him, especially, like that she's engaged. You kind of realize that you only have so long with her left while she's still in the house. And so I feel like those moments are cherished a lot. And that's ways where for you guys in quarantine, I know you're not going a lot of places, but we're probably not very intentional with our time. Like, have you felt your kids be intentional with you in quarantine? Is that something that's been like, because they're just around you constantly, that they kind of take the time for granted, or what?
Yeah, I would say that's both directions. And it's the same thing with, even with Katie and I, from the standpoint of that, it's like you're just always there. It's just kind of like there's no differentiation. So I actually was talking to Nate yesterday, my son, and I told him, like, put a schedule together, like have like intentional breaks, like, do schoolwork for an hour and take 10 minutes, like versus just like sometimes we like just have everything just runs together, but like kind of have a schedule and actually plan out what you want to do throughout the day and stay to it.
Mikey said engaged, right? With like gay in parentheses. Mikey is also recently engaged, so shout out to Mikey.
What?
Yeah, it was cool. I was there along with like 25 other people, so we definitely broke California's laws. Oh,
but you were in like little mini pods, so like you weren't really.
For sure, of course.
Pods of 6.
Just like we're all 6 feet apart right now, right?
Totally 6 feet.
Let's not measure. Kent, for you, I think that maybe it's not as hard in this season, but generally there's this idea of when you get older, when you get to your age and you're in college, it's almost like, and maybe it's kind of natural because the way society was in the past, where it's like you're 16 and it's like start working for yourself, and then by 18, like everyone was legitimately almost out of the house, and it was like a clean break by then, whether you were married or not. A lot of times that's the way it works. Like you moved out, or in a lot of ancient societies, like you literally built the house while you were in your teenage years so that you could have a separate room of your parents' house. But it wasn't like kind of like what I'm doing. It's like I live in an apartment under my parents' house, but I don't live with my parents, But for you, you're kind of in that stage where you've got school, you've got a girlfriend, you've got a job, and all this stuff.
Do you have a girlfriend?
Yes, she still likes you.
Oh, but you're not dating. Sorry.
But you have walls now. He's got a girlfriend, and you've got walls.
I tore all my walls down.
That's an inside joke. Sorry. No more inside jokes. I didn't mean to do that to you guys. But Kent, how do you balance loving your parents or your siblings well? Because you've got so many things that you're focusing on right now, and you're kind of focusing on like, how can I just get out and do life? So how do you focus on your family well, and how have you felt your family focus on you, like, because your sisters are in the same spot as you?
Right. So time's obviously been different now, but before quarantine, balancing everything, especially the doing nursing, I know I'm going to be in the house for a lot longer. I'm not going to move out if I can spend the time at my parents' house and save money. So usually my parents are working all day, and I'll be out all day at school and in church and wherever else I go. And then at the end of the night, that's when I get home. That's when my parents get home. So spending that time, I can do it a lot. I can do a lot better than I am now, but I think you always can improve in everything you do. But I think for me, if my parents ask me to watch a movie with them, rather than go upstairs and play video games or something, that's an area where I can capitalize on. Or say my sibling, usually Lauren, watching the room while I'm playing video games. That is so, I can care less about video games at that point, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just take off my headset and just listen to my sister or something, because I feel a sense of entitlement to just alone time or whatever. that's it's stupid if I'm being honest. But yeah, I think also family vacations and stuff like that. Asking when our camp's going to be far in advance so that I can plan that out so I can be there and not miss anything like that. But yeah, I'm blessed with like a family that doesn't want to get in the way of school and church, which obviously they'll come first in every scenario, but
They kind of find a way to work.
Exactly. They don't make me make that decision of just, and I know it's harder for a lot of people that you have to make that decision between family and this or family and school. But yeah, so for me, I've been blessed with a family that's been really helping Lauren, Lisa, and I all work around that. So.
I really like that idea of like when Lauren comes in the room, like you're like, video games don't matter anymore. I take my headset off because something I have a really hard time doing is if I'm focused on a movie or a video game or something and Heather wants my attention, I have a really hard time breaking my focus. Like, just let me finish. Like I'm doing this and I want, but I lose perspective on like, does it matter if I win this game? If Heather's upset because I'm not doing that. And even Heather said last night, like I just felt like today you spent your entire focus on this game rather than me, and that was something that was convicting for me because I'm like, oh, what do I get? Like fake virtual coins for winning this, but what I lost is actual real life relational points because I'm willing to give my attention to Heather or like even when the baby's sleeping, I'm watching the monitor. It's important to Heather that I'm like paying attention and not distracted by. I don't watch it like 24/7, but I like had left it in the other room because I was like, yeah, she's asleep, she's fine, and so that stuff that's important is like being able to break your focus and go, what's more important right now, my screen or the physical face in front of me?
Video games can be paused or just restarted. You have the gulag as well. I don't think any of you guys understand that, but you have like
we're two dads that don't play video games, so sorry, but we can't relate to that.
Yeah. Well, I was connecting to that.
Connected to the
Discord. That's a thing I've heard about.
People like that.
No, but yeah, you can pause that, and you can't necessarily get back in time with your family. So
yeah, Ben, does having kids help you understand God's love for you more?
I think absolutely.
In what ways?
I think as a parent, understanding or having that aspect of love for your kids and what that means. Like you have even getting married and having that relational relationship with my wife is a different level of love than start to kind of understand a little bit. But when it comes to like your kids, where it's like literally do anything for them, like where you absolutely like not even a question of laying down your life, like everything that is important to you is them. Like all other things, like my entire existence is there to protect them. And understanding that like when the Bible talks about our Father and having that love and that we're His kids, it's crazy. It's like the like complete like break you down situation was like booking in Indio, and we had it was a weekend, and he had them come up, and he's like talking about this is literally like nothing else matters. This is the relationship that I have with my kids, and to think that is like a microcosm, like such a small level of what Christ has for us. Understanding that in that same type of situation, we open the door to come walking in, and he's like, hang on, guys, my kid's walking in. And so for me, that's like understanding the love that I have for my kids and being like, holy crap, he has that times hundreds of thousands of times comparatively to me.
For sure.
So that it really put things in perspective for me. I mean, I remember on a just like the most basic level is I remember when my oldest was born, and I've always been a defensive driver. Very I pride myself on my driving skills. And,
like how slow you drive, or what are we talking about?
No, like very much like very in control, but pushing the envelope. And my wife, I remember getting in the car and taking Faith down from the hospital and putting her in her car seat in the car. And like my wife, I just became the world's safest driver. Now, turns out 18 years later, I didn't become the world's safest driver, but it completely changed my dynamic.
Oh, I remember driving home from the hospital like a couple weeks ago. I I was on the freeway and I'm like, 45's good. Like we're
It's completely, like you're now like when I'm driving myself, if something happens to me, the worst possible scenario for me is that my family doesn't have me and doesn't have a provider. But when they're in the car, it changes everything. Like if someone cuts me off and they're like being unsafe with me, like it just happened the other day with my youngest in the car, I was so furious because they're putting my daughter at risk.
Yeah.
Like I'm me.
That makes sense. Yeah, like I had a guy racing past me the other day and I was mad for a different reason.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like you're a jerk. I'm like, do you not think about her? You know, or people smoking too. You're like, hey, there's a little girl with baby lungs here. You know, like put the cigarette out.
Yeah. So it's a completely different perspective. Even being a big brother and protecting your siblings, I think that's important and it teaches you some of those lessons. But everything gets amplified.
Yeah. So something that I recently experienced is, like I get how it kind of changed your understanding of God because I have always focused on kind of like the justice side of God, where I'm like he brings us back to repentance because that's just like what he does, but ultimately he has to like still satisfy justice in the process of that, and he is like which is a true statement. He is first about his glory, but in that I kind of saw it's like I am an object of like I move from object of God's wrath to God's mercy and his love, but like what I'm understanding is my first priority is to bring God glory. So while all that's true, and there is this justice side of God, and one day I will come to face like an account for how I stewarded my life to Him. What I realized is when I was looking at Paisley, and I'm like, I just like I enjoy you so much, like I delight you so much. You haven't done it, you know, you're literally just an infant. I realized that God starts seeing us that way, and I'm like, that makes so much more sense. The fatherhood of God, He's just like, I delight in you so much that of course I want to restore you. Like when Adam and Eve sinned, I thought it was God like, gosh, stupid humans, now I have to restore them again, like almost rolling his eyes. But it's almost like I bet there was almost like this brokenness where God's like, dang it, I want my kids back, you know, and I want them to see what's better for them, not as like this, are you like, and I think there is some of that where God says enough to people, where he went to Israel, he's like, enough, you know, and we do that with our, people do that with their kids when they get older too, or they're like, enough, please stop, you know, but it just kind of transformed for me where I went like, that makes so much more sense, where it's like God delights in that, and it's like, of course he wants to restore us, but he wants us back.
Yeah, you want to be, as a parent, you want harmony with your kids. You want that relationship. And it was funny, I was joking with my kids the other day, and there's a comment like, hey, I'm not mad at you, I'm just disappointed. Yeah. And I was like, I know that like every kid hates their parents saying that. They're like, that's the worst thing that my parents can say to me. But I was telling them, like, that's literally me trying so hard to say, I just want to fix whatever this is that's happening. Like, I don't want to say, I'm pissed off at you, I'm mad at you. Like, I don't know what else to say. I'm like trying to find something to say to not hurt your feelings. Like, I'm just disappointed. I'm just bummed. Like, I'm hurt is probably a better way to say it. But we're not more parents. We say things standard line. But it's genuinely it. It's just I'm hurt because there's a disconnect. And we're just like, how do we bridge that disconnect, whatever it is? If it's a chasm or whether it's just a small thing. So it's that being out of community as you get older with your kid. You still want that. You still want that bond to be there, to be restored. Because at the end of the day, we want what's best for them, and we want that relationship with Christ to be as close as we can help be in them.
That's funny. I even had a moment of tension with my dad the other day where I was like pretty frustrated with him, and we were both frustrated on something. And I remember feeling that kind of that same, like, especially now that I'm older, I felt like this weight where I'm like, I'm not going to feel better until that's resolved. But even understanding like that's the father heart of God is like, you're like, I just want to resolve this tension to bring you back so we can be in right standing, so we can delight in one another again. Yeah. So. Again, Ben, you have 12 or 11 siblings other than yourself. Kent, you have 2, and I noticed that you're a good sibling. So what are some qualities of a good sibling? Like maybe that you feel like you've shown to your siblings, or that some of your favorite siblings, if you have that, that you just go, these are qualities they've shown to make me feel loved as a sibling.
It's interesting with my family because there's so many different dynamics in it. Like there's so many different variables with it. I would say that, more than anything, when I grew up, I'm not that old, not Mark Ross old, but
Mark Ross, you're still young to
I love
me.
you, Mark.
Okay.
But you know, the whole like love languages and all those things like weren't popular, they weren't talked about. So it was like for me, it was like, okay, I get along better with these siblings. Like we have commonalities, we have similarities. So it's just for me, it was
Like you and Aaron both are like chiseled bodies. Like that's a similarity.
pretty much. No. No, it's funny because Aaron, the way my family is it's literally the weirdest thing. Every other kid. So the oldest, my sister Sarah is number 3, I'm number 5, and then Timmy's is 7. Like there's a lot of similarities with all of us for whatever reason. Every other kid, we joke that it's like Sherlock Prescott is my mom's family, like every other one, and so there's a lot of similarities there. But I think it's with anything, it's time spent.
All the odd number and even number of kids there.
Yeah.
Also, just so you know, if you guys go to Classical Academy, Tim Sherlock, the coach Sherlock, that's his little brother. He calls him Timmy. It's pretty funny.
That's the real chisel body.
Yeah, he's an incredible shape.
But so for that, it was really just spending time, right? It's and the dynamic of having such variations in ages. I mean, I had a sister that was 2 when I graduated, I think. So it's a different dynamic than my brother that's a year older than me and a brother that's 2 years younger. So I think it's really just being.
You have a sister the same age as me, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, which is how crazy how young you are.
It's true.
So from that standpoint, it really is just a matter of, I think, being there for them, being dependable, and you're going to have conflict. You're going to have, I think, stress in your life. Even if it's like a 2-year age gap or a 7-year age gap, I think that at the end of the day, it's, what is it, the freaking Disney movie where it's family means never saying.
Oh, Lilo and Stitch. Family means nobody gets left behind.
Yeah. But it's that same dynamic of like, that's family. Like at the end of the day, family is family. And you take care of your own, even if there's beef internally. And we all know that. Like if someone says something to your family member and you're like, whoa, that's not going to happen. I can say that, but nobody else does. But understanding that what you say to them also hurts them.
For sure. So someone that's acknowledging like how your siblings feel and kind of that considerate is one of the biggest traits in a sibling. Kent, what about for you? What are just a couple traits that you go, Lauren and Elisa have been good siblings because they've done X or they show this character trait?
Right. I had 2. One you'll hear a lot, but the first one is being real, I think. Not trying to sugarcoat anything, just getting straight to the point, telling you what you need to hear. But yeah, Gen Z or whatever that stupid thing is. Well, it's not stupid, but it's like an actual thing. I guess we're the age that we
Gen Z, they're just stupid. The idea is stupid.
The whole idea of them.
The idea of Gen Z is stupid.
Well, it's like a
Quote, Kent Dunn.
like a horoscope or something. Apparently, we crave.
Yeah, it's like genuineness.
Genuineness,
You
right.
care about people being real,
Right,
and that's
right.
like the trademark of Gen Z is they just want authenticity.
Right. So my sisters do a great job at that. They never sugarcoat anything. They're always real with it. And then the other one is the one that you'll hear a lot for all these answers, but listening.
Yeah,
They
that's what I was going to say.
listen so intently and so well, especially my sister Elisa. That's something I've been trying to do more, not talk about myself as much and actually listen to them, go up to them with questions. But yeah, I think them doing that and my parents as well, that's the most way I can feel about possibly. So.
Yeah, for me, my siblings, I have 3 siblings. I'm the baby of 3. And I remember like the biggest difference between me and my siblings when we were younger and now older, which you kind of just find this with humans. Like as you get older, you get generally less selfish. Not always, like it depends on your experience, but especially as Christians, you get generally less selfish as you get older. But I know like when you're a little kid or even in high school, it's like you're just upset with your siblings because you don't fit with what's easy, convenient, or comfortable for me. Like whenever my mom asks me to do something for you or to take you somewhere, it's an annoyance. It's not out because like you're my sibling and I love you. Or whenever you do something stupid, like when my friends are around, it's because you're going to make me look bad. And so it's all me-centric. Like you upset the way that I want to do life. And I've noticed that like as me and my siblings all kind of got doses of humility in whatever area of life, a lot of it was for marriage or through marriage. Like my brother's not married yet, but still just kind of like life. Life humbles you as you get older and you start to see like you are not the bee's knees, you know, like you have a lot to learn still. And so I found that when my siblings are just willing to learn how I feel loved and to serve me, like any even small act of service from my siblings is just a huge thing. Like when the second week of Paisley being born, Heather and I were like just exhausted. And my sister's like, hey, can I come over and watch the baby so you guys can sleep? And I was like, you would do that? Like on my brother's birthday, he said, this was May 2nd. My brother said, hey, I bought you new brakes for your car. Can we change them together? So he bought me new brakes in the mail. They arrived on his birthday, or they arrived like the day before his birthday. So he took them, and on his birthday, he changed my brakes for me. So he paid for the brakes, and we changed them together. But I'm like, this is supposed to be my day to serve you. And you're like, nah, forget about me. Like, I'm going to serve you. And so that's just something that it's one of those moments where I feel so indebted to my brother that I'm like, it draws me closer to you. So I'd say that, like, definitely having a humble spirit and willing to serve one another. Other questions, other quick questions about siblings is, what would be your advice for someone who doesn't get along with their siblings? We've got about 9 to 10 minutes left, so I got a couple more questions, but just like 30-second to a minute answers on some of those. What would be your advice for?
Again, go up to them. Instead of trying to talk to them in any kind of way, just ask them how their day was or ask them intentional questions. And don't just do it, obviously, to check it off your list, but try to actually be intentional with it. Like I said, listening is easily one of the most powerful things someone can do to make someone else feel loved. Just don't even try to say anything about your life. Just ask them about theirs and try to make them feel heard. Even if that's how the conversation ends, it's just them answering the question. I don't know. That's just something I've been trying to do more and more. But.
I think it's just listen. I mean,
Sure.
It's be more willing to listen to what's going on, because I think if we're listening with the idea of trying to fix me versus trying to fix them, it'll change the dynamic. Because I think in most cases, I know I've had conversations with my kids, I've had conversations with my small group guys, and trying to look at what does it look like to listen to them for the intent that you fix you. Stop trying to fix them, because this will help you in every relationship, including dating and marriage. If you're sitting there trying to just figure out what they can do to make your life better, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is listening is more than just hearing words. I love this phrase, listen beyond what someone's saying and what they're screaming. You know, like when Heather, especially in time of quarantine, if Heather says, how has your day been? I know that doesn't mean, like, I'm like, you've been with me the whole day. What do you mean? Like, you saw my day. I know it's a bid for my attention. It's her asking, like, I want to be heard and hear you. I want to communicate. I want to connect. And so I have to listen beyond just the words that she's saying and what she's actually searching for. So, yeah. Another question for you guys, last one on siblings, is what are some mistakes you've made as siblings, and how did you either resolve those or feel like, it doesn't have to be like specific examples, but just that you go, these are mistakes I feel like I've made as a sibling, and how did you resolve those? Or maybe if you didn't resolve those, how do you wish you would have in the past resolved those?
Neglecting my siblings, especially when it came to video games. I used to be insanely addicted. Obviously, during this time, I play a little more than I should, but I mean, can't go out and hang out with my friends, so just meet up with them online. But yeah, I think neglecting them in the past of just not taking my headset off and thinking, oh no, this is my time to relax and do me or whatever. But yeah, now I can't fix what happened in the past or myself neglecting it now, but now I can not neglect them, I guess, in those moments, or just brush them off. Just actually taking off my headset, like I said, and just listening to them is how, I guess, I'm mending that old habit. So yeah, that's probably one of the biggest mistakes. There's a lot, but yeah.
For me, I would say just being selfish. and not really when I was in that 11-12 age range, it was all of me. I was self-sufficient. I didn't need anybody else. I was working. I didn't need my parents. I didn't need my brothers and sisters. I didn't really interact with them. And both my two younger brothers, I could have had the opportunity to be an influence on them. Instead, they kind of were just left to their own devices. And at that point, my parents I'm the fifth out of 12. So at that point in time, they've got now 5 kids that are basically out of the house. And kind of their routine started changing of what that looked like. And I pretty much was, not because I didn't like them, I just didn't spend any time with them. I didn't invest in them. And so I think for this age in your life is you have the biggest opportunity right now, if you have younger siblings, to really impart some wisdom, to be there, to be supportive of them, because as you know, your parents and your relationship can be difficult, and having someone else that's gone through it is huge. I mean, I think it's funny how Ken is a year removed from a lot of the guys in this group, but at the same time, he provides a ton of wisdom, even that little bit of age difference, to say, no, I was in your shoes 1 or 2 years ago, and the same thing that you can do for your siblings with young ones.
Yeah.
Look, I was there a couple years ago. Mom and dad aren't as big of whatever, or this is how you can get through this, or just listening and just being there to be kind of emotional support and help for them. But for me, it was just, I was kind of doing my own thing, and I wasn't doing anything bad. I was just ignoring and letting them. I was selfish and self-consumed.
Yeah. For me, I think I was pretty legalistic, and that had a lot to do with my pride, just because since 8th grade, I wanted to be a pastor. And so my siblings all knew that. So I was kind of like the self-professed, like, I have to almost, be the Bible thumper in the house, where I have to make sure everyone's up to code with scripture and all that stuff. But I realized in doing that, I was more of a Pharisee in a lot of ways than I actually was a Jesus follower. And so for me, it just looked like not trying to fix my siblings or their issues or their problems, but earning the right to speak in their life. Like now my brother will legitimately text me and ask me for advice on stuff, but that was earned over years of relationship. But if I just went to my brother and said, here's what I think you should do, it didn't impact me, and or didn't impact him. And I needed to put down my legalism, my pride, and go let me just love you for who you are, regardless of who you're going to become. And because of that, I feel like I've now earned the right to speak into their lives. Okay, these are going to be some rapid fire questions. I know they are not the easiest things to rapid fire, but as much as you can. How was becoming part of Katie's family slash? Sorry, I did not write that question too well. What was it like joining someone else's family? Was that hard? I know that you don't have to dive into details, but I know that Katie didn't have the best growing up experience. So how was that for you?
I would say that I've known Katie since the 5th grade.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot you.
I was hanging out at her house in 9th grade type of thing. So her family was just easy. I would just go over there and hang out. So that part wasn't difficult. I mean, it was interesting to see the dynamic of 12 kids versus 2 kids and seeing what was basically a very different dynamic than what we had. But for me, that was an easy transition because it was almost like I grew up at her house. So,
what about for someone joining your family right now, which is kind of happening? I know it's this process of slowly being grafted in.
As far as Will?
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrifying. It's like if someone's taking away my baby girl.
Yeah.
So that part's hard.
I can't imagine where I'm at right now. I can't fathom Paisley ever getting married, but I know it's gonna happen. I thought about it, but I'm like, it's just a distant thought. You're there.
I'm literally my brain's still where you are. How is this happening? This is not gonna happen. It's still a long ways away. Quarantine for another 2 years, baby. Who knows? Sorry.
Kent, how do you make your parents feel loved?
Spending time with them, asking about their day intentionally, hanging out with them, which I don't do enough of, going to them for advice, that's also a big thing. Being vulnerable with them is a huge thing as well, because parents don't expect that, I guess, at our age. But, yeah, pretty much the best way to make them feel loved.
Okay, each of you, maybe 1 sentence, 2 sentences. What is some best advice you would have for students dealing with tension in the house during quarantine? Whatever level of tension, whether it's just you've always had a crappy family dynamic, or maybe it's like you're getting tired of being around one another. And maybe you're the best place you've ever been with your family, but still tension arises in families because we're human, So what's your advice? If someone's got tension right now in their family setting, what do you say to them in a time of quarantine?
I would say in a healthy way, find some space. Get outside, whatever your parents are allowing you to do. But like if you can take a walk, take a walk. If you can just go in your backyard and spend time, get into prayer, just get some distance. I think that's a big thing is just it allows you to take a deep breath, kind of again go back to handle yourself. Like don't try to change them. It's what could you do differently, and sometimes just removing yourself from the situation can.
It's like that whole familiarity breeds contempt. I don't know if you guys ever heard that, but it's like sometimes when you're around someone so much, you just like they would say something, and if you haven't seen a friend in like you're hanging out with a friend 24/7 in the summer, and this happens to you guys sometimes where that friend, if you haven't seen them in a week, like at school or something, you're like, oh hey, but then you're hanging out with them 24/7, and they say a small thing, and you're like, dude, shut up, okay? I don't want to talk to you anymore. So it's part of that. I think it's great advice. Just whatever it looks like, give yourself space. If you can't actually physically go somewhere, you can still get mental space. Yeah, I think that's great advice.
When you're interacting with your family, on the other hand, don't give your family any reason to include you in all that tension. Obey your parents. Let go of your pride, even if they're bashing on you or something, and you didn't do anything wrong. Just take it. Obviously, don't get walked over and neglected or abused or anything like that, but it's not worth it to create more tension in the family when all your family's fighting and you're the odd one out. I think that's a great example of what as Christians we're called to do is just be set apart from all the chaos. So yeah, just be an example and a light in your family if you can, and obey your parents. I think that's like the biggest thing I can say is just do what they say, even if it might not benefit you in any way. But
for sure,
one thing to keep in mind, and this is something that I don't think it matters where your parents are in the current job crisis situation, but what your parents are going through right now, they have no idea what's going on. None of us do. Like no one knows what tomorrow's going to look like or the next day. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of uncertainty. So give your parents a break. Give them a little bit of extra grace, because whether they're trying to figure out if they're going to have to get a second job, if they're going to even have a job, if it's just stress and strain of like there's so much uncertainty right now, understand that they're worried. We talked about earlier like having kids and what that does for you of like wanting to provide. That's all going through their mind right now. And the stress and strain of family can sometimes, those worldly stresses can sometimes come out in anger and frustration towards you. So just understand that there's some things that they may minor explosions, maybe an outburst of frustration.
I even experienced that. That's kind of the tension I was telling you I had with my dad is our place flooded, and my dad's had to pay to fix that, but they had to like re-irrigate the whole house. I was talking to Ben about this before, but it's like what it's costing to fix all that, because it's been like years of things. It's like north of what I made last year, and so it's like that just alone, my parents were like, we're going to be all right, but that just sucks for them. And so I had this tension with my dad because he kind of got short with me and yelled at me a little bit. And I was like, look, like I'm an adult. You can't yell at me anymore, And so we had this moment and we reconciled, but he came back to me and he was like, I'm sorry I didn't deal with this tension well. And you don't know what your parents are going through. Like you might not feel the weight of the economy falling, but maybe they will. Like you don't know what their stock portfolios are looking like right now, or what they're thinking about their houses or all this stuff. So I think what Ben said about space is so important for quarantine. Like you need space in being able to give yourself like physical space from the situation where you go talk to a mentor, go talk to God, talk to your small group leader, because they can give you some perspective that you didn't previously have in the situation because they're not in the midst of it. But giving yourself a second to cool down, but then also just like, giving that space of that literal space of grace, like a space of your response. Because if you don't give space between what you feel and what you respond, you are going to end up with a miserable life. But if someone responds to you, like what Kent is saying, where someone hurts you, the only time people, when they say something to you, are ever really trying to hurt you is if they were hurt themselves. So that means if someone says something, generally you just misinterpreted it, and through understanding, you can even communicate with them and say, hey, you hurt me. But that only comes through giving space, that gap, filling that gap. There's a gap, and what are you filling that space with? And so I think in so many facets, that idea of space is going to be helpful in quarantine. And so don't take this as like you're in a conversation with your parents, and this can't be like, I'm going to go to my friend's house because I need space. Like, that's not what we mean here, but it's just like a mental and relational just gap that you get for a second so that you can get outside the situation. That's what space does. It gets you outside of the situation, gives you perspective, and allows you to go back into it and say either I'm sorry or, hey, can we resolve this? Can we reconcile? Can we come back together as who we've been with family? Ultimately, like, this is, I think what's going to happen for a lot of you guys is either one of two things going to happen. You're going to feel forever indebted to coronavirus 2020 because of what it allowed you to have with your family, which sounds so weird, but you're going to be like, thank you for the time and connection you allowed to have with my family. Or you're going to look back at it with forever regrets because you're like, I could have used that so much better to steward. Like I could have improved my family situation for the next 20, 30 years to come. And I mean, you think I'm joking, but like my sister, Natalie Rhodes, she's married to Daniel Rhodes, as you know him. I have felt closer with her than I have felt in the last 10 years. Actually, probably my whole life. But I mean, like, we were pretty close when we were younger, but I just had felt so close to her, and it's all because of quarantine. Her busy schedule stopped, my busy schedule stopped, and I just felt really loved by them. And so that's like, I'm so thankful to coronavirus for that, for extra time with Heather, for basically I get almost a maternity leave with Paisley, you know? And so I feel forever indebted to coronavirus. And if we're not doing that, like, shame on us. You know, we talked about it week 1, which is as men, we're called to be intentional. The first sin of man was to reject responsibility and to be passive. And so I think the first step of manhood is to take initiative and accept responsibility. And if you're doing those things with your family and listening to the advice of these guys, you know, like, and if you don't have their numbers, get it from someone in the ministry and text them like, hey, how can I do family better? Text your own lecture leader. How can I do family better? Because I guarantee you do not want to waste this time with your family. You have a beautiful opportunity to make a difference in your family right now, which is probably going to be your most important ministry. So don't waste it. Any closing thoughts?
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What's the dumbest fight you've had so far with your wife? On your side of the equation.
Okay.
Not her.
This one's hard. So Heather and I got in an actual, like, legitimate fight. Like, I mean, like, actually to where, like, she was crying. I had to apologize because I fart a lot. Like, and that sounds so dumb, but like, she like can't stand. Like, I have pretty smelly farts, but I fart a lot. And so she's like, just go into another room. And I'm like, well, you know, like, or I'll say I'm sorry after I farted. And she's like, you're not sorry. Like, if you did, she's like, just don't fart. And I'm like, what do you mean don't fart? But like, it's weird. You know, it's like girls don't fart. I swear to God, I've heard Heather fart like 3 times in our marriage. I'm like, how do you do it? Like, I don't understand. I don't think her body doesn't produce gas or something. It's miraculous. But yeah, so safe to say that's been one of the funny ones where it's like, we really have a hard time getting over that. Like, and so I'd say on my end, I'm pretty dumb because sometimes, like, there's been times where I'll intentionally fart just to kind of frustrate her, just to show her that, like, this is a natural human thing when I could have easily gotten up and gone somewhere. But I'm like, no, she needs to learn to deal with this. You know, like, I feel justified. So I've since repented of that and tried to do better. But yeah, it's probably been the dumbest one. Yeah. So farts get in fights, you know? That's what I'm saying. Farts cause fights, I mean.
All right. Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, well, we love you guys. The 3 of us are gonna hang out and talk for a little bit, but get to your life groups, and we will see you guys at this weekend service.
See you guys. You like a